Kyle Svara was 26 years old and lived with his parents in a quiet neighborhood in Oswego, Illinois. From the outside, his life looked ordinary. He worked a steady daytime job at a small computer repair shop tucked between a pizza place and a dry cleaner. Customers knew him as the polite tech guy who could bring a dead laptop back to life or rescue years of family photos from a broken hard drive. He kept mostly to himself, clocked in on time, and rarely caused trouble. But at night, things were different. When the house went quiet and the lights in the neighborhood dimmed, Kyle's bedroom would glow with the cold light of multiple screens. The soft hum of his computer fans blended with the faint clicking of keys. His parents assumed he was gaming, watching videos, or chatting with friends like any other young man his age. They never knocked. They never asked questions. And they had no idea what he was really doing behind that closed door. Kyle had always been gifted with technology. In high school, he was the kid everyone went to when their phone froze or their social media account got locked. He figured out passwords just to prove he could. At first, it felt harmless, a challenge, a puzzle to solve. He enjoyed understanding how systems worked, how apps stored information, how security measures could be bypassed if you knew where to look. What started as curiosity slowly turned into expertise. By his mid-20s, Kyle wasn't just good with computers. He understood the architecture behind social media platforms. He knew how two-factor authentication functioned, how recovery emails could be manipulated, how official-looking messages could trick someone into giving away access. He studied patterns in user behavior. He knew most people didn't double-check links if a notification looked real enough. To him, it wasn't magic. It was psychology wrapped in code. Then came the spring of 2020. Lockdowns swept across the country. The repair shop reduced hours. Life slowed down. Boredom crept in. Kyle spent more and more time online, drifting through hidden corners of the internet he hadn't explored before. That's when he stumbled into private forums, places where anonymity was currency and rules were flexible. In those spaces, men openly discussed paying for access to private photos from women's social media accounts. Some requested specific college students. Others wanted accounts from certain cities. It was a market driven by obsession and secrecy. At first, Kyle just watched. He read the posts. He studied the requests. He saw the money being offered. And then one message caught his attention. It came from a man who claimed to be a former track coach at a university in Boston. The coach didn't waste time with small talk. He sent a private message outlining exactly what he wanted: access to Snapchat accounts belonging to female athletes he had once coached. He provided names, schools, sometimes even usernames. The tone was calm, almost clinical. And at the bottom of the message was the hook: payment upon proof of access. Kyle paused. He knew it was wrong, but he also saw something else: an easy opportunity. The lockdown had cut his hours, and extra cash would help. And in his mind, it was just digital access, no physical harm, no direct confrontation. He convinced himself it wasn't as serious as it sounded. He replied. The coach responded quickly, sending a list, names, teams, and bits of personal information. That was enough to begin. Kyle leaned back in his chair, the glow of the monitors reflecting in his eyes. His fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment before he began. He started researching each target, scanning public profiles, checking linked emails, looking for patterns in usernames. He crafted messages that looked official, designed recovery prompts, and prepared the technical steps he knew so well. For Kyle, it wasn't emotional. It was methodical, a challenge to solve, a system to test, and now, a service for hire. As the hours passed and the rest of the house slept, Kyle got to work. He began the way he always did, quietly, patiently, from behind screen. First came the research. He moved through public profiles on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as if flipping through a digital catalog of strangers' lives. He studied bios, scanned tagged photos, noted usernames that were reused across platforms. Sometimes there were hints, an old email and a caption, a phone number attached to a business page, a birthday casually mentioned in a post. Tiny fragments. To him, fragments were enough. Snapchat was different. It didn't give up access easily. Logging in required a verification code sent directly to the user's phone. That barrier would have stopped most people. Kyle treated it like a puzzle. Instead of forcing his way in, he went around it. He created burner numbers using online services, numbers that looked ordinary and legitimate. Then he crafted messages that sounded official and urgent. Calm, polite, and professional. He posed as part of Snapchat's support team, warning about suspicious activity or unauthorized login attempts. The wording was careful, just enough concern to trigger anxiety, just enough authority to seem believable. He would explain that a verification code was being sent to secure the account. All he needed, he said, was confirmation. Most ignored him, and some blocked the number immediately. But a few hesitated. A few felt that flicker of worry. What if someone is trying to hack me? When the Real code arrived on their phone, it seemed to confirm his story. And in that brief window of confusion and trust, they sent it back. Kyle moved quickly when that happened. Speed mattered, and the moment he received the code, he entered it, thus securing access before it expired. Within seconds, the account was his. He didn't rush after that. He scrolled slowly through messages, stories, private memories. He searched for anything intimate, photos never meant to leave the safety of a private conversation. He downloaded them methodically and stored them in encrypted folders on his laptop. Organization mattered to him. He maintained spreadsheets with usernames, dates, notes, cold documentation of stolen access. Over months, the scale grew. Thousands of messages sent, hundreds of women contacted, college students in Boston, young professionals in other states, local girls from Illinois towns near Oswego. Some accounts yielded nothing. Others became commodities. He kept some images for himself. Most he distributed to people who paid, anonymous buyers in private corners of the internet who valued secrecy as much as he did. From the outside, his days looked ordinary. No broken windows, no alarms, just a man, a laptop, sending messages into the void. But behind the screen, he was building a quiet empire of deception, one verification code at a time. The coach paid the most. He wasn't interested in random accounts. He had specific requests, former athletes he once trained, young women who had trusted him years earlier. He wanted private images, personal memories never meant for anyone else's eyes. Kyle didn't ask questions. He delivered. He packaged the files neatly and sent them through encrypted links that expired after download. Payments moved quietly through cryptocurrency wallets, anonymous, untraceable in his mind. Each transaction felt like confirmation that he had built something efficient, something profitable. With the earnings, Kyle upgraded his setup. New graphics cards, extra monitors, faster storage drives. His bedroom slowly transformed into a small command center, screens glowing late into the night. He told himself it was proof of his intelligence. He wasn't breaking into houses. He wasn't carrying weapons. He was just outsmarting people. On the forums where he operated, no one knew his real name. He cycled through usernames constantly, reinventing himself every few weeks. New handle, new avatar, and same operation. The anonymity gave him confidence. He believed he had erased every trace that mattered. He thought he was invisible, but invisibility breeds risk. Greed crept in quietly. Instead of waiting for private referrals, Kyle began advertising openly in certain subreddits and Discord servers known for shady exchanges. His posts were brief and coded: account recovery service, fast turnaround, crypto only. People who understood would message him directly. Business increased, and some clients wanted revenge on ex-girlfriends. Others were strangers seeking random collections. A few asked for specific locations or age ranges. Kyle didn't hesitate and widened his net. He targeted accounts from Plainfield and nearby suburbs. Then he expanded further. At some point, the distance disappeared. He began targeting women he recognized, faces from high school hallways, local events, mutual friend groups. That line he once pretended existed, it faded. By late 2020, he had accessed dozens of accounts. At least 59 women's private photos passed through his hands. He downloaded, sorted, labeled. His system grew more detailed. Folders divided by state, by age group, by date accessed. A private archive built on stolen trust. He told himself it was just business. Most victims didn't notice immediately. Snapchat occasionally sent login alerts about new devices or unfamiliar IP addresses, but many brushed them aside. Life was busy and notifications were constant. Some changed passwords days or weeks later, unaware that screenshots and downloads had already been taken. By the time they realized something was wrong, the damage had already traveled far beyond their control. Images began appearing on revenge sites, in private groups, and on obscure forums that thrived on secrecy. Victims felt a sharp, sickening shock when they discovered what had happened. Photos meant for someone they trusted now circulating among strangers. Reports flooded into Snapchat, complaints, screenshots, links. Behind the scenes, the platform began noticing patterns, clusters of suspicious logins tied to certain IP addresses, repeated access attempts, verification codes triggered in unusual volumes. What had looked like isolated incidents started forming a map. Snapchat escalated the data, and law enforcement began looking closer. Kyle still believed he was hidden behind usernames and crypto wallets. He didn't realize that patterns leave shadows, even in the dark. The FBI stepped in when multiple victims came forward. Some were student athletes from Northeastern University. Their stories, though from different corners of the country, shared a chilling pattern: messages, verification codes, and unauthorized access to private accounts. The threads converged, and agents began piecing them together. The trail started with the phishing texts, traced back to burner numbers created through TextNow. Subpoenas followed quickly. TextNow handed over subscriber information, revealing the phone number and real address of the man behind the scheme. Kyle, living quietly in Oswego. Investigators monitored his internet traffic, watched his connections to forums where he advertised his services, and linked him directly to the high-profile coach's case. The coach had already been caught and sentenced, and phone records showed clear payments to Kyle. That confirmation tied him to the larger operation. By early December 2025, the investigation culminated in action. Federal agents arrived at Kyle's house before sunrise. They knocked with authority, badges flashing, a warrant in hand. His parents, stunned and confused, watched as the agents moved through the home. Kyle, still in his pajamas, tried instinctively to close his laptop. It was too late. Agents were faster, and they seized every device: computers, phones, external drives, scanning and cataloging as they went. Inside, they found what investigators feared: folders brimming with stolen images, meticulously organized spreadsheets tracking victims, and recovered deleted files revealing the text messages he had sent. Over 4,500 messages had gone out from his accounts. Hundreds of women had responded with codes, and nearly 600 were targeted in total. At least 59 accounts were fully compromised, leaving a trail of violated privacy and trust. Kyle was arrested that morning. Agents read him his rights, but he said little. He was taken first to the local field office, then transferred to face federal charges. The indictment originated in Boston, reflecting the many victims tied to Northeastern University. The charges were severe. Aggravated identity theft carried mandatory prison time. Wire and computer fraud added additional years. Conspiracy charges covered his dealings with other collaborators. And there was even a count for false statements connected to child pornography material found in some of the files, as a number of victims were underage. The net had finally closed. A quiet, calculated operation that had thrived in the shadows was now fully exposed, leaving behind shattered lives and the cold inevitability of justice catching up. In jail, Kyle sat in silence. The days were long, the walls gray and unchanging. He lost weight, his face sharper, the spark of invincibility gone. Visits from his parents were few, brief, heavy with awkward pauses. They struggled to reconcile the son they knew with the person sitting across from them behind glass. Questions went unasked, answers unspoken. Kyle thought about the choices that led him here. The thrill of easy money, the sense of cleverness at outsmarting systems, it all felt hollow now. Regret settled in, heavier than any sentence could be. His lawyer worked quietly behind the scenes, negotiating a plea deal. The prosecutors had overwhelming evidence: images, logs, text records, and clear connections to the victims. Fighting it would be futile. By early February 2026, Kyle stood in federal court in Boston, clad in a gray jumpsuit. The courtroom was solemn, almost eerily still. He faced the judge and entered guilty pleas to all major charges.